have with us content creator, my favorite, by the way, James Lee. He is here with us, fresh off of his most recent TikTok suspension, unfortunately.
Oh,
And that's what
Yep.
happens when you are a truth teller. And not just that you're a
oops.
truth teller, but when you're super effective at what you do, which you are because your videos, for those who don't know, James makes these awesome informative videos. They're very short, usually between like a minute and like 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And he breaks down super complicated concepts into digestible videos, explanation videos. And your style is just has been so effective at really helping to open people's eyes up. I mean, I think you've been featured on like Joe Rogan, lots of big podcasts, but I know Rogan for sure has talked about you. I think he's even played a couple of your clips. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself for a second, James?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on, Mel. Same back at you guys and Janine for the stuff that you guys do. I think this is like we're just at the forefront of this kind of independent, decentralized
Mhm.
journalism. We're all doing our own research and then putting that on the internet and letting people scrutinize it, which I think is really important and so different from the legacy model, which is like an editorial board and they pass everything up through some kind of bureaucratic chain to see if this is something that we can report on or not report on. This is like completely different, letting the audience decide what's going on. And just like the little, the short thing or little short blurb about me is I used to be a management consultant. I was working for Fortune 500 companies doing PowerPoints and things like that for them.
Mhm.
And I saw a little bit of the underbelly, I would say. And at that time, it was during COVID. So we had, I think a lot of us were awakened by what was happening
Mhm.
with those kinds of, whether it be vaccine policies or lockdown policies, those kinds of things. And at the time, I actually happened to be working for big pharma clients. And I saw a little bit of what's going on there. And I just said, man, I would really not like to participate in this anymore. And so then I had the opportunity to kind of not be on the road so much because after COVID hit, we stopped traveling because I was on the road for 200 days a year, and after
Wow.
that, I was just at home, so I started just researching stuff for myself and then putting it on the
Mhm.
internet. And to some effect, that is kind of still what I do today. I appreciate you talking about my videos being effective, but a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm learning stuff, I'm gathering data points, and I'm trying to figure out for myself, and then I'm relaying that
Mhm.
to the audience. Is like, hey, this is the things that I found. This is what I think is going on, and in a lot of ways, I think that's why it's effective. Is I'm sort of right there with everybody. I don't know more information than you. I'm giving you what I have, and then I'm hoping somebody would
Mhm.
take that and then find more stuff out on their own.
Right. And that's what we've seen happen, just this kind of building, building, building. And then of course, to your point, which you when you talk about like old school editorial boards and things like that, they're reliant on ad revenue, right? They have to think about not just like, is this, are we going to burn some of our political sources or whatnot, but also are we going to screw over the people who pay our bills, right? And so that's where we see that big pharma pays, I think it's something like 25% of all ad revenue on cable news. So we never see any scrutinization of their
Right.
practices, of their industry, because they were the ones keeping the lights on. And that's all by design, of course. So now here comes independent journalism. And number one, we're like, yeah, we don't make that much money, but it's okay because we've never been rich to begin with, so we don't really have to worry about it. You can't miss what you
Yeah.
don't know, right? And yeah, and so we just do independent journalism, and yeah, I think it's definitely kind of blown the barn doors wide open as far as like the possibilities of what can be exposed. Obviously, very grateful to have X. I know it gets a lot. I know Musk gets a lot of crap, but I don't care what anybody says. He has actually allowed more than any other platform, and there's really no limit. I mean, it's a small limit of things that you can actually put out there. So,
Yes. I mean, it provides not only on X, uh, in terms of like the free speech, it's not only important on X, but then it provides in terms of the marketplace, just competition for the other platforms to say,
yeah.
well, if we want to compete with this platform, we also need to allow more on there. And you're seeing kind of a different, like, this is just something I've noticed because I'm on all the platforms. Like you mentioned, I was recently taken off of TikTok. TikTok is, to me, the most censorious platform before, and now after as well. It was now after it's
Mhm.
been Americanized or whatever. But I'm starting to notice like Instagram is kind of stepping in. Facebook, I
Yeah.
see them kind of taking advantage of the, I would say, of the opportunity to say, yeah, come on over here. You know, you can say some stuff on here. Like Mark Zuckerberg, I think last year was like, hey, we're going to allow more information on here, or more free speech as well. So free speech just kind of begets more free speech. And once you start getting that censorship, that's when things can get really dangerous, because what happens is, you know, in order to have this kind of control on the population, you either need to do it through like propaganda, or you need to do it through force. And so now you're seeing a lot of the independent journalists, like you said, we're like kind of breaking apart that propaganda in real time. The next step, unfortunately, if that's not allowed to reign, then it's shutting things down. It's censorship. Then it's also arresting people, these kinds of things that we're seeing in the UK. And that's not a society that I want to be a part of.
I
Right.
do want to say a quick thing about Zuckerberg. I think people should be a little skeptical of his promises, because he was essentially, caught red-handed, almost red-handed, censoring conservative speech. And I think when the administration changed, he just wanted to curry favor with the current administration.
Yeah.
So I'm not
I
convinced
completely
at
agree
all.
with
I
you.
think he's also, yeah.
I completely agree with you. It's completely self-serving right now. It's not gonna necessarily last. And for me, it's like, hey, I'm gonna
Yeah.
take advantage of it while it's here.
Well,
Who
I
knows
also
what the
think
future
they
will bring.
probably, I think his companies are censoring pro-Palestine speech, because that's not, popular with the current administration. So it's,
I don't, it's funny. I have an Instagram that I don't use. It's like my burner account. I go on there, and when I scroll, I get a very interesting, because I follow like 3 dog accounts. That's it, right? And so the algorithm doesn't really know much, but it does know that I'm searching for people from time to time. And so when I was on there this morning, I was actually surprised at the mix. There was pro-Israel and pro-Palestine content, like back to back to back. It was very, it was interesting. I don't go on there very often. So, and again, like I said, I don't have any followers on there or anything. It's like a total burner. It's like I think it's like Larry S.J. and then like a billion numbers is like my
It looks like a bot account, basically.
Oh yeah, it does look like a bot account. It's got it is a bot account for all intents and purposes. As far as like me, it's like my total burner, right? And so yeah, because I didn't want it connected to even like my Facebook, right? So I had to like set up a fake Facebook, which I don't use. I have I don't know. It's just one of those things. But so I like to gauge, and I was impressed actually by the amount of it's interesting because I say it's pro-Palestine, not anti-Israel, right? So I do think that there's a significant difference there, and I can see where maybe that's their compromise, right? They'll allow pro-Palestine, but not anti-Israel content. And of course, you do have to be able to say the truth about Israel, right? It can't just be, I think sometimes people think that because the Lord knows the Zionists always claim that if you're pro-Palestine, you must be, anti-Israel and want Israel to, I don't know, cease to exist. You want to nuke them or some dumb shit like that. So, but no, so that's what I saw. And I think that's what they're kind of leaning towards, and that'll be but if you go hardcore anti-Israel or just try to tell the truth about Israel, I think you will kind of interact with a much harsher algorithm, much more censorship kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I try to do my best. Even when I was on TikTok, I'm citing sources that I believe are credible sources. I mean, a lot of times I try to cite as many Israeli publications as possible. I'm like, hey, this is Israel's press saying this. How could you say this is an anti-Semitic post when it's on the Jerusalem Post? It doesn't make any sense. Right. And so, yeah, but in terms of, I think there is, at its core, though, if you're thinking about Meta and Google and TikTok, these are all still competitors in the tech space. So right now, I believe they're saying, hey, TikTok is sort of getting all of the media attention, all of the scrutiny. Let's try to grab some users over while they're not satisfied with this platform, get some more users over to Meta, and then we'll deal with the fallout later on. I mean, it's all going to shift, like you said, Janine. It's here right now, but later on, who knows? Zuck might change his mind and they'll go to a different direction. But at the end of the day, they want the users, they want the audience. So that competition, I think, still factors into some of the content moderation.
Yeah. And speaking of these platforms, so we had this tragic shooting in DC. It was on Wednesday, correct? Somebody correct me.
Yeah, Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving.
Right, the day before Thanksgiving. We had
It
this
was
man.
right outside my office. It's
Wow.
right at the corner where my husband usually drops me off at work.
Oh wow,
It's so
wow.
weird, yeah.
Have you seen the troops out there?
Yeah. I mean, they're at the metro station, so he usually
Okay.
drops me off in the morning, and I take the metro home. And
Okay.
So they're always there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have these troops. They're from West Virginia, and unfortunately, this man comes in. He had driven across the country. Very weird thing. He's this Afghan refugee. He was admitted into the U.S. in 2021 following the withdrawal, and turns out he was a CIA contractor. Yeah, so he just drives into DC and opens fire on a couple National Guardsmen from the state of West Virginia, and he kills one. The other one has not passed, I don't believe, but is in very critical condition. And then he's just taken into custody, right? So pick it up from there.
Right. So I think that lays out sort of what happened there. He's just the gentleman's name was Ramanullah Lockenwall, and he is a former CIA contractor that worked for, I believe it was called like Zero Units in Afghanistan, which is like they do some really crazy, violent, kind of operations back when we were trying to do our thing over there. And so he was granted asylum during the Biden administration. And this is the part where I think it's getting politicized a little bit from both sides, is like the right's kind of saying, hey, this is Biden's open border policy. But then if you look closer, Trump actually then granted asylum again, like basically renewed his asylum papers earlier this year in April, is what I saw the reporting was. So both of these administrations are I think, somewhat, if you're talking from the immigration perspective, somewhat liable for this. If you're talking about, hey, we don't want these kinds of people in here, that's certainly a discussion that can be had, a debate that, do we want this program to still exist? I'm totally open to that. But as far as like the attack, I think there's one thing. It's like, hey, we have to figure out the motive for this, and then also talk about what the effects are of this shooting. I think both questions are equally important. And one of the things that I was doing very early on is I wanted to just Google this guy and find out as much information about him. And I was going on and using the Google Trends tool that they have there, basically to figure out when people were searching, the search activity and stuff. And it was really interesting what I was finding out, because I was doing this kind of real time in the minutes and hours after the reporting of the shooting came out, on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. I was just kind of chilling. I was like, okay, what is going on here? And I saw some really interesting things, which was that this name, Ramanullah Lockenwall, I don't think it's that common of a name, at least here in the US. I don't know in other countries or other languages how common it is, but I was doing that search and I was filtering for various areas in the US. And one thing that came up was in the DC metro area, there was a small search spike about a week before the shooting. There was just like a tiny little tick there, and then I zoomed in further on the day of, and it was like in the morning, the wee hours of the morning. It was about midnight. So I'm on the West Coast. It was midnight my time, so it was about maybe 3 or 4 a.m. East Coast time. There was this massive spike that you could see, and it's posted on my X. You could see this massive spike, and that spike was much bigger than even the search traffic after the shooting. The news of the shooting had already broke on the internet and on various media sites. So I was like, this is really, really bizarre, right? This doesn't seem to be that normal. And we kind of saw this same situation happen in the Charlie Kirk shooting, where people were Googling various terms like Tyler James Robinson, Googling the name of the hospitals, various surgeons in there. And we saw some of this activity. And so I wanted to figure out, first of all, okay, what am I looking at here? Because I did see a lot of people post videos about these Google search trends. And I think they were maybe misinterpreting some of that data, because a lot of people were saying, oh, we see so you would have a spike and then you would see a number associated with that spike. So it's like 40 or 50 or 20. And people were saying, oh, this is 20 times that this term was Googled. And that's not what it means. What it does is like it takes, from my understanding, the time span of whatever you're filtering for. So let's like 1 week time span, and it's normalizing the search traffic throughout that 1 week. And it's putting data points to say, this is the most that it was searched. So then at its peak, it would assign a value of 100. And then the other points all normalized based on that peak. So if you see a number that says 20, so that means at this point in time, it was Googled at around 20% of the amount that it was at the peak, depending on the time span that you have bracketed for that particular search. So then when I was looking at that, I was like, well, day of, having that search be way higher in the morning of the attack really doesn't make any sense. And so then I put it into Gemini. So I was like putting in all the data that I have, all the screenshots, and I'm like, hey, can you analyze this? And I know, AI, chatbots, these kinds of things, you have to sort of take with a grain of salt sometimes, just just putting that out there. But I was asking, hey, what do these things mean? Like what could be happening here? So it gave me a couple of possibilities. It said it may be a glitch that Google had misaggregated or misbucketed the search traffic, and it was putting it on the wrong timestamp. They said that that's possible, unlikely, but possible. There was also another theory that it kind of spat back at me, saying maybe there was another person with the same name. They said that was very highly unlikely that was the case. Yeah, and then the most logical explanation, they said that there was somehow foreknowledge of the event by some small numbers of individuals, either it be the intelligence agencies. They talked a little bit about this, like kind of burn notice, or be on the lookout. Maybe they had, they were keeping tabs on this guy, or whatever it was not before the event, and they were just trying to monitor the situation prior. They don't know whether it'd be like, hey, this guy was set up through some kind of MK Ultra type of thing, or they were really trying to stop it. We don't know, but it certainly pointed to the fact that there was probably some foreknowledge of this event, is what the data kind of indicates. I haven't seen I haven't seen the administration, whether from government or the media, acknowledge these things. And I think a lot of people are just kind of poo-pooing this to the side. But I'm like, this is data that is trusted by businesses. For the most part, Google Trends is used for as a marketing tool for a lot of businesses. So what you're saying is that these data points aren't accurate. I don't know if that's right. That's right. And now, after the news kind of broke out, and then I posted this on the internet, the next day I went back, and all these searches, I think you were trying this out too, right, Mel? Those searches had disappeared. They're either normalized and flatlined, or in some cases, if you change the parameters around, it would say there's no data available when previously it had data. So that's really bizarre. So I'll just pause here to see, what you guys' reaction to this is.
Yeah, I'll real quick. I will tell you that when this whole Google Trends thing first kind of dropped in the Charlie Kirk case, right? I was getting tagged in so many videos. And I don't understand a lot of this stuff. Like I'm not super knowledgeable in the way that things like this work. So I'll be honest, I was skeptical, because I was like, it doesn't make any sense. This doesn't, why would they leave it open? Why would they allow themselves to be tracked like this, right? And then I talked to someone who said, look, Mel, these people aren't perfect. They're still human beings. And when people are doing devious things, sometimes they forget to check all the boxes, right? To make sure that, and I thought that I was like, that I do have to remind myself of this, that they're still humans. Like they are fallible. They do make mistakes. And so I kind of kept it open. Still, I was a little bit about it, right? I just didn't know, like, what is it? It just all seems so convenient, kind of thing, right? Then when this happens, I was very interested because of the early morning spikes, like I was like, this is weird. This is really, really weird. And then when Google went back and just erased it, right? I was like, okay, I feel like that's a tell. they're telling us that something is happening here. I don't know what it is. I don't know the significance of it, but obviously they think it's something. And so
Yeah.
they're willing to just like blow their credibility for it, obviously.
And they'll
Also,
say they'll say it's
if
probably due to some
oh,
glitch in the data. They won't say that we're erasing it. They're saying that there's probably a glitch. I mean, they haven't announced anything, but I think Google Trends is a relatively new discovery in the kind of independent OSINT journalism type of process to see what people are searching for, because it is, like I said, it's mostly used as a business analytics tool. So that's why it exists and that's why it's robust. People are like saying that they would shut it down, but I'm like, this is used by a lot of businesses. It's part of Google's core advertising model to see what people are searching for and these kinds of things. So this is a feature that they need to have. But the coordination, I would think, is kind of challenging. If this was really a coordinated thing, I'm not concluding that or anything, it would lend itself to these kinds of type of discoveries in the moments, in the maybe minutes and hours after, where they haven't had time to cover up this data quite yet.
Right.
James, also, I mean, so if this was attributable to a delay and like the timestamp was off, wouldn't there be a lot more? Like, wouldn't you then see like millions of searches, like rather than a few? Like that, or do I understand the numbers incorrectly? Because like after this happened, everybody would be Googling his name, right?
And they were. So that's what I found really odd in the data, is that because I was searching this on the afternoon, evening after the shooting had occurred. So I was basically looking at a 1 day period. And that's when I saw, you could see, I think the news broke around 2:15 Eastern time, roughly. And so you could see, okay, now we're starting to get more data, right? But it was like flatline before, then after the news broke, there are people searching for it. But then there was this one massive spike at around, I would say, for me, it was my time zone, it was about 12:40 or something like that. So it'd be 3:30 a.m. Eastern time. And that was where the value said 100. So that would be the peak of the search traffic, which I thought was really strange.
So that would suggest that timestamps aren't off, because that makes a lot of sense with.
And that's, so then I put it in Gemini and asked it to explain what could happen. And that's what I was mentioning. They're saying, oh, maybe Google had essentially bucketed that search traffic in the wrong timestamp. So that's what their explanation was.
I see.
Maybe, I don't know. But it is strange. And people were looking at other names as well. I think one person, I didn't personally do the search, but another person was looking at other regions. I think they were looking at the officer, or the National Guard's member who tragically passed away, Sarah Beckstrom, and she was searched in Israel, I think in the days prior as well, which is kind of bizarre. Not a huge spike, but like just something going on there. And that's also just strange things that are not explainable through, any other explanation other than some kind of foreknowledge of this happening.
Right.
That also, I mean, I had assumed that this was like a random shooting. Like, even if this was sort of a false flag attack, which I'm not saying it is, but again, just
allegedly, we can't
not necessarily
say that.
Exactly. I was still assuming it was like he was just targeting 2 random National Guards people, but that suggests that it was not the case, right? I mean,
it's possible that he seemed like he had sort of a plan. I don't know exactly, obviously, behind the scenes, but he did drive, right? The reporting is that he drove from Bellingham, Washington, I believe, across the country to DC to carry this out. And, I always try to look at it from, the Occam's razor perspective, right? People tell me that all the time with my reporting. The simplest explanation is probably the most likely. And in the past, the simplest explanation might have been that this guy was really mentally ill because of all his service with the CIA in Afghanistan and the horrible things that he saw, and he just decided that he was going to carry out violence for whatever reason. But now, I'm not really entirely sure that would be the simplest explanation anymore, given what we know about various operations like this, where people can be sort of influence to do these kinds of things, or entrapment. Those kinds of things have been well documented by 3-letter agencies to try to radicalize people to take action for some purpose. And one thing I found really interesting too, when it comes to the DC situation and the National Guard being there, there was a federal judge that ordered basically the removal of these troops 6 days prior to the shooting taking place, saying that it's an illegal occupation. You're not supposed to have militarized police in the city. And now you're starting to see the opposite. Now Trump has, I think, just added 500 more National Guard troops in DC because he's saying that it's so violent. We need more of these guys in there. So you can kind of see how this is already being used. And then you have to wonder, well, is it being used? Is he doing it kind of taking this as an opportunistic moment? Or was this something that they thought about that they needed to combat, and then you need to kind of create public consent for these types of draconian, police operations?
Right. Yeah. And again, I do think that that's a little bit of a hard sell as far as, old dude woke up, got in his car, decided to drive across the country. But this is not the first case in which we've seen someone waking up, getting a gun, and getting in their car to drive to DC to murder people, because we saw this again. We saw this just with the shooting outside the Holocaust Museum in
We saw that,
May. Right, in which
Well, we
that
also saw
kid,
that. I don't know if people remember the beginning of the year. There was that New Orleans case that some driver, drove and killed a bunch of people New Year's Eve, and then they went to his apartment and they found like the Quran open to a certain page. I'm like, this is outlandish situation. And so we're starting to see patterns like this. And also the Cybertruck thing, we have no idea what happened to that. Still no explanation for whatever that was. So you're starting to see patterns like this. And that's what I'm saying with the point of Occam's razor is like, is the simplest explanation just this guy went berserk, or is there something else going on?
Yeah, well, I am a firm believer in that. Janine, cover your ears. She's gonna be so embarrassed that I say this. I don't care that MK Ultra never actually went away. That it's always been in play.
No, why would I care about? No, I.
Well,
I have the same
because
view.
they always say that like they always say it's like super conspiracy theory, but I don't care, because the thing is that actually the Occam's razor on that is that is the simplest explanation, is that someone is is some way, some shape or form, they are able to get in these kids' mind, these kind of lonely people's minds. I don't know how, but they are inspiring people who have no history of violence, no history of documented mental illness, to all of a sudden wake up one day and then just go murder people out of nowhere, right?
And I don't think we can also ignore the context that clearly a lot of people are trying to stir up Islamophobia because of, the world is turning against Israel, and it's easier to get people to be scared of Muslims and hate Muslims than it is to get them to accept what Israel is doing. So that's the strategy. So I think there are a lot of things that, are reasonably making people suspicious.
Right. We have these, again, we've got, the Muslims with the open Quran, the guy at on New Year's with the open Quran, of course.
Just like how Mein Kampf is in all the houses of the bedrooms of the kids in Gaza who are.
I know. And then so we've got that. Then we've got this kid coming from Chicago, right? Out of nowhere, he just decides to drive down. He's supposedly this far left. He drives down to the Holocaust Museum, shoots people, and then of course he says "Free Palestine" right afterwards. So it's tainting the movement there, right? We've got the trans shooter up in at the Catholic school up in Minnesota, again with the Free Palestine stuff. That guy was a little crazy. I'm not going to lie. That one was a documented case of mental illness. Certainly, we did have that. But again, we just keep seeing this. Thomas Crooks is another one. Even Luigi is another one where it's like, this kid came from a really wealthy family. I get it. He had some medical issues, but he just kind of falls off the map for 6 months. And then he wakes up one day and he plots the most insane murder that we've seen in a really long time. And it was very calculated, like a freaking lion hunting someone, really kind of scary. He takes out the CEO. He knew exactly where he was. He knew exactly how to find him. He knew exactly how to get away. And it's like, this is just a normal kid. He doesn't have any skills. And then he gets away,
And
but
then he
then
gets caught in a McDonald's.
busted. Exactly. Same with Tyler Robinson. Commits the perfect murder, and then he's like at the Dairy Queen texting his lover all the details that just so happen to be pertinent to all the evidence that they collected, right? Able to tie him to each single little piece of evidence.
Yes, a lot of these things, some of these instances might actually be exactly what it is, but some of these things point to it's not exactly what we've been told, and we get this kind of mixture of stuff. That's when you can really have doubt, and maybe that's the point, is to have people doubting what's going on, because I think the whole thing is ultimately, to me, in my eyes, to justify a more police surveillance type of operation in the United States domestically, because what you have to do now, and this is a little, maybe a wider theory that I have, is that the U.S., with its military powers, are not quite the same as it was maybe 20, 30 years ago, but you still need to continue with this kind of military industrial complex. You need to have a justification for troops. We can't exert our power in that same way anymore. I think we're trying to right now still with Venezuela and things like that, but you need to turn some of those resources inward. And so you need to do this domestically and say, anybody here, any American could be a terrorist. So that's why we need to have these troops deployed here. And I think this is a very dangerous, slippery slope to countries that we've previously kind of poo-pooed, in China, these kinds of things. We said, hey, look how bad the Chinese are, and we're kind of drifting towards similar policies, except I always kind of joke, without the high-speed rail, without the nice roads and bridges, we just get the police state.
Yeah, I know. I always say that probably the dumbest I ever felt was one day when I woke up in March of 2022, after Russia had invaded Ukraine, and it was clear we were going to start sending money. Because I remember when the Afghanistan withdrawal happened, obviously I thought it was awful, but at the end of the day, just thank God it's done. It's done. We're out of there. And really not realizing that this monster had been building for 20 years, and an industry, with a $200 billion a year budget, it doesn't just disappear into thin air. They will find a new outlet. They will find a new use for it. It doesn't just go away, right? You can't just do away with it. And so and then what we saw 6 months after the Afghanistan withdrawal is Ukraine pop off, and now we have the absolute biggest budget, DoD budget, that we have ever had, and our country isn't even at war. It doesn't make any freaking sense, right?
Well,
we're almost at $1 trillion.
They're saying it's peace through strength. I mean, they're making up these kinds of Orwellian slogans that.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like 1984.
Yeah, it's like, the party is telling you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears, and that is their final, most essential command. They're saying all of these things like, the most transparent, administration, and you see Kash Patel covering up things that he should be investigating. In this situation, he's playing politics, right? I just saw him in a press conference yesterday or the day before talking about how this is like a Biden migration issue or whatever. But I'm like, you're supposed to be the top crime fighting enforcer here of America. Why don't you go out and look at what exactly happened here, or with the Charlie Kirk situation or Candace Owens? Why are you shutting down any kind of probe into potential foreign operations? Isn't that your job to do that? Why are you not doing that? And then that leads to more questions of, well, is Kash Patel compromised? And this is where I think the whole honeypot thing got out of control, because people saw all of these signs, and we're just looking for explanations. It's like, is it your girlfriend? Is it something else that's going on here? And I think in order to restore this, people just need to start doing their jobs again,
Well, as far as the honeypot, I'll be honest with you. I just don't think that Kash Patel That I don't know if they would trust him. I don't know if they would trust him with. He's kind of like that guy that they're like, oh, he's like a Trump loyalist. We'll put him in here. We'll give him like the figurehead job, right? But there's still people running the numbers, running the gig behind the scenes, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I think is happening.
Yeah, that's what
I think-
Whitney Webb was talking about that recently, where she says if you look at the
Okay.
Trump administration, all the top cabinet holders are kind of made for TV people. They're podcasters, they're from
Yes,
Fox News,
yes,
they're whatever.
yes.
But then if you look at the deputy of these positions, they're oftentimes very much industry insiders, whether it be with the defense or big pharma, depending on the position.
Yeah.
So you have to look.
And it's
a
not
layer
just
deeper.
Trump. I think Biden was the same way. If you ever, I don't know. Okay, never mind.
But yeah, well, I think there's probably different types of bureaucratic. Biden was pretty open about it. I looked into the a lot of his cabinet came out of this consulting firm called West Exec, including Tony Blinken and some of the other folks. And they're just kind of openly saying that, yes, we're going to put together like corporations and government. This is our whole goal. I mean, it was on their website. So they were pretty blatant about that as well. And saying, we want a marriage between, defense contractors and the government. And we have no problem facilitating that.
I know Sean says you can't say this. Okay, look, I'm just going to say it. All right. I don't know if you guys remember. It was like May 2023. That was like, it was like National Jewish Heritage Month, and the White House was like, "Hey, here's our Jewish heritage. Here's our Jewish members," and it was literally like 280 of the 350 people that worked in the Biden White House were all Jewish, and it was like. If we look at the number of Zionists in that, if you say 95% of Jews are Zionists, it's like. I would say that there's a serious outside influence on the, within the Biden administration. These are the people calling the shots. And that's why we saw, again, 2% of the population, 60% of the White House staff, and that helps to explain why Biden was just so unbelievably subservient and just did whatever the hell Israel told it to do, right? Because
he was by far not an anomaly. I think every single administration is the same way.
Well, I would say, Bush, believe it or not, the last time there was any pushback, I think was Bush 43. No, 42. Whichever one, George W. Bush.
The older, are you talking about HW or W?
So W. So he had, I believe, he did a couple. He had fewer vetoes of UN sanctions than once Obama comes in. The U.S. then starts just vetoing every single sanction or resolution against Israel. Period. Like I think. Obama did more than Bush W, significantly more. And then, of course, Trump was just totally just gave
Except
Israelis.
At the end of his presidency,
Obama he had the one where he let it go, right? But George W. Bush, believe it or not, was actually, he was, but George W. Bush was literally condemning the settlements. He was doing certain things. And I know the Iraq war, trust me, I know, but there was more symbolism, right? And then, but yeah, going back into George H.W. Bush and then even Reagan, it was Republicans that had always put up more of a fight against the Israeli lobby. And I think that's why they're so unbelievably vitriolic towards Republicans now who are speaking out, because they remember that the only real opposition that they ever got after JFK came from the right, technically, right? And again, it's pathetic to think about what we call, pushback. It's just so Reagan calling and saying, hey, it's been 5 days of nonstop bombing babies in Lebanon. How about you give it a break? All right. No real consequences that they ever faced, as far as I can tell. Yeah.
And you have to give, I was watching a podcast with that CIA guy, John Kiriko.
Jake, yeah. Or is it John or
John?
Jack?
Yeah. I'm pronouncing his last name wrong for sure, but he was the whistleblower for the torture program in Iraq, and he went to jail for 2 years. And he was talking about when he was working in the CIA, he was asked by PBD Patrick Bet David, oh, what's the intelligence, country that, or what intelligence agency did you trust the least? And he's automatically said the Israelis. Like, we didn't trust a fucking thing they did. And I'm like, well, why are we allies with this group? And they're saying that the Mossad was not even allowed in the CIA headquarters because every time they come in, they try to bug the conference rooms. And they're like, guys, you guys got to stop this. They would be giving these gifts, like the golden page or whatever, and they would try to stick like some kind of listening device or something in there to capture information. And it was just bizarre. It was like some of those stories that he was telling. I just don't understand why we're still allies. And in terms of the foreign influence, I don't think we should be influenced by any country. People were pointing out Qatar, how they're funding universities. I'm like, yeah, that also sounds bad too. Except I don't have any kind of.
It's pretty minor.
Because I was looking at it, it's like, is that a big deal? Because I don't have any problems criticizing Qatar, or I haven't had any issues if I criticize Qatar. But once I say something about Israel, automatically I'm, last week, I think I was named by the Stop Anti-Semitism group, the Anti-Semite of the Week, which is hilarious.
I also have a profile on this.
Yeah, I know. Janine has, she's been their target a couple times now, I think.
And, wow, yeah. And I mean, I'm totally independent, so it's hard for them to really target me, other than like I got banned from TikTok like a few days after that, so I don't know if that's related or not. But they certainly have these kinds of.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah. Yeah, because she is, just so people know, the woman that runs that Stop Anti-Semitism account is this like Russian Jewish woman who grew up in the Soviet Union. She's literally like the Stasi. You can take the girl out of the USSR, but you can't take the USSR out of the girl. Is kind of what how she operates. She's a psychotic bitch. All right. I hope she sees this.
We should tag her in it.
Right. Yeah. No, I can't stand that vile woman. She will pick the most just benign things. I have a friend whose husband was targeted by her because of his criticism of Israel. He lost his job because he said because it wasn't, she said it was anti-Semitism.
Well, they brag about that.
Right.
On their website, they said everybody we target, 50% of the people we target, they lose their jobs. And if you look at what they actually said, I don't know what the case with your friend's husband, but I saw some of the things they were calling out was this person posted an article from Al Jazeera, and all of a sudden now they're anti-Semitic.
Oh yeah. She'll say because she did that very recently with a doctor at Indiana State. This is like a pediatrician or something like that, who literally just shared an Al Jazeera article which said that the IDF had harvested organs, which is a well-documented fact. It's true, okay. And then the Stop Anti-Semitism account said, this doctor says that Jews steal organs. And so of course trying to get her fired. I don't think she actually was fired, but this is a very similar thing to what happened to my friend's husband, who just basically said like, don't serve, it was talking to politicians, said, we want politicians that serve the US or, Americans, not Israel. Like, that's the most benign thing that you could say.
Yeah. The thing is, like, a lot of people don't realize that this is how the Zionist lobby has been operating forever. It's just like before social media and before the 2023 Gaza situation, it wasn't that like people didn't realize it, but like Norman Finkelstein and other people lost, Stephen Salado was another one. They lost their positions. And like I've said many times on this podcast and in other places, like when my dad was raising me, he would tell me stories about what his family had endured under occupation and then say like, but don't talk about it or they'll make sure you never have a career. So this is like very ingrained in me that this is what they do to people. And I think Americans are just realizing it because most people never had to confront the situation before.
Yeah, and it makes me so mad, right? Because again, we're Americans. You should be able to say fuck Israel. You should be able to say that. The only reason as Mel and I have gone on, and maybe you have too, James. I haven't,
but there are all these people like Ilya Shapiro, Ben Badejo, who say things like just nuke them all, kill them all, ethnic cleansing is too kind, and they're the ones trying to get us fired for like very, for just saying like no. I mean, the double standard is so insane.
It is actually insane. I mean, I was looking. I mean, you probably have seen some of the clips of Barry Weiss at that whatever Jewish conference that was recently,
Yeah.
and I'm like, she's saying things that actually are anti-Semitic. She's talking about the Jews and how they basically are not just a religion, but they're a people, and they're intrinsically tied to the state of Israel, and that tie can never be broken. I'm like, that is technically, according to the IHRC, that is an anti-Semitic trope because that's saying dual loyalty. So you're
Yeah.
saying the Jews are loyal to Israel, no matter where they're from. And I'm like, that's okay for, I guess, for you guys to say. And they're talking about other things like, oh, we need to like use our control mechanisms to like tamp down on conversation. And like that's also anti-Semitic trope because that's implying that you have
Yeah.
power to do those things. And somehow they're able to say it. And if somebody else points it out, then we get canceled.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw that Sarah, what's it, Sarah Horowitz?
Oh, Sarah Horowitz,
Horowitz.
with the
Yeah.
Gaza Holocaust situation, where it's like, oh, maybe
Yeah.
we shouldn't have taught the Holocaust in that way because people got the wrong idea.
Well, she's like, no, you guys made us control Hollywood. We didn't want to do it.
That one, yeah.
There was one like Twitter that someone had said something like, I realized decades ago the Zionists control the media, all the major institutions, and I said 100% or something. And then that someone wrote an article about what an anti-Semite I was, like she should be fired. You're kind of like
But
you're
they say it.
anti-Semitic for saying we control the institutions, but also we're going to make sure you don't ever work again.
Right. It's so.
It's a
so
frustrating
frustrating.
experience.
Yeah.
In the US, because
Yeah.
I get it. Like, I'm just a person online. I'm just a podcaster. I'm a researcher, a journalist. I don't have the ability to maybe change things. I'm not the policy maker. But then when you start going at people like me for just reporting stuff and saying, I'm not allowed to say this because
Right.
not just because it's like not for America, but it's like another country has said, no, we don't want these people saying this. That's like pissing me off. And then when you deplatform me, right? I don't have any power, but then once you start deplatforming me, that's when I get really pissed off. Like, all I'm saying is that I think there are politicians that don't serve our country. And you saw what happened to MTG. I don't know exactly behind the scenes what led to her resignation, but you can clearly see that once she started actually talking about issues like Epstein and connections to Israel, she got death threats, and she probably said, you know what? I'm rich. Like, I don't need this. I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. Perhaps something like that.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that happen to Thomas Massey, right? One of the more America First representatives, and he's being targeted. So basically anybody who is like anti-AIPAC, who's spoken out against them, is being primaried for whatever reason. It just seems like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
If Americans actually knew that was happening,
Especially
then a
on
lot of
the
people don't pay
right.
attention. It's like you're literally primarying
Yeah.
somebody just because they don't support a foreign country. Insane.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and they're especially the people on the right. They seem to have it in for more. I mean, not to say there was like Cory Bush and stuff like that, but
Oh yeah,
was
Cory
on the
Bush,
left,
Jamal
but-
Bowman. I mean, they were just targeted because specifically of their position on Palestine, not because of any other issue. You could disagree with some of their other policies.
Oh, and
but that's not
AIPAC
why they're
doesn't
primaried.
even. Yeah, and they don't even hide. I mean, they just say like, we're going to get this person out of office, and then yay, we got this person out of office. Then it's like, oh, and you're anti-Semitic for saying the Zionists control.
Oh yeah. I love to point out because the right is so hardcore pro-Israel, and and they get so they get all butthurt if you criticize AIPAC, and I'm like, you do realize that AIPAC doesn't actually they have never once promoted a member of the Freedom Caucus. Okay. Now they promote progressive Democrats all day long. They love themselves some progressive Democrats. You go to the AIPAC website or to their Twitter page and you put in progressive, they are always bragging about how all of their progressive candidates have been elected, right? And they're all backed by
Including
AIPAC.
our favorite, Sarah Elfreth.
Sarah Elfreth, old girl down there in Houston, Jasmine Crockett, who is just one of the most just really kind of comical people that we have seen in DC in a long time, as far as just like, why are you here? I've never actually heard you say anything remotely intelligent to be. You don't even like who the hell do you even advocate for, lady? I don't
Well,
actually
she's
hear
a culture
you.
warrior. That's all she is. She
Right.
just goes on there, spews stuff about culture wars.
Right. And I hate culture warriors on the right who never talk about anything meaningful. And I hate them on the left as well. But she's just so kind of vile and nasty for and for reasons that I don't even understand most of the time what the hell she's talking about. Especially because her district is rather poor, right? So there are a lot of things that you could be advocating for, and I can't see. And then yet you have millions and millions of dollars pumping into your campaign coffers that I can't quite figure out where the hell it's coming from. I don't know. Maybe perhaps you inspire all of these small dollar donations, but as most people who, if you follow me for a long time, you know, go search my page for ghost donors. you will see that there is an underbelly of other ways to get money into people's campaign coffers, and someone like Jasmine Crockett, who serves as a very useful distraction for a lot of things that happened in DC, because she's just so flamboyant and so controversial all the time for reasons that don't even make any sense for the most part. And she can steal the spotlight on social media for sometimes a 48-hour cycle. It's actually kind of impressive how long she can hold it with just one or two, snippets and or clips of herself. But so we have these people, and AIPAC backs all of them. They love them.
And then they gaslight us. I mean, AIPAC always says, well,
Yeah.
no, we're American, right?
Right.
We represent the interests of America. And then what is it? Last month, they're over in Taiwan, doing some kind of lobbying on behalf of Israel. It's like, if you're an American lobby, why are you in a foreign country advocating on behalf of another foreign country? Like, what is that?
Why wouldn't you back America First candidates? Right? Like, I mean, if you're American, surely somebody like Bob Good, who you guys actually went hardcore against and who was replaced because of your advocacy, and Bob Good wasn't even anti-Israel at all. Like, not even a little bit.
It can't even be anything like remotely, not even anti, but just like one thing against them, right? I think I was reading about John Ossoff in Georgia, and he is potentially under a possible primary threat because he voted one time to not vote for one bill arming Israel. And they're like, we got to get this guy out.
They won't do that. I can promise you that. That's not good.
Sean is asking who is our dream team to run in 2028. I don't really have any ideas. I guess Glenn Greenwald. I don't think that'll ever happen.
I think we're going to see a sleeper come out. I don't think, obviously JD is the favorite on the right. I don't know. There's a lot of
Mel.
I could run. Yes. No, you can't. Yeah. One day I might run for Congress, maybe. Probably not. Oh my God. So last night I was having a few cocktails and I just went off on my Twitter account and I was being so mean to everybody. I was stalking Janine's page and people that were being mean to her, I was like, I woke up this morning and I was like, oh my gosh, you need to delete that and delete that and delete that.
Now leave it out there. Leave it out there.
I know, right? And so, but I don't know, 2028, I can tell you who it's going to be JD Vance, and you're going to see.
I think he's asking who we want.
Who I want? I don't know.
How about you, James?
Well, a lot of it is like, a lot of people think it doesn't really matter who runs. It's all kind of like a fake theatrical show.
Yeah.
If you're talking about presidential politics, I mean, there are people, I think, more on the
assume.
local level that you can get in there and actually make some policy changes. But presidential, that's all just theater, right? You could say, oh, I would love, for example, Thomas Massey. But if Massey gets in there, is he actually going to be able to do anything? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's the saying they say? No matter who you vote for, you get John McCain, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. I know. Obviously, I'm intrigued by JD Vance because of how much Zionists seem to hate him right now, right? And a lot of people say, well, this kosher theater. And I'm like, but it's not. It's really not. Because if you really look at what they're saying, he poses some sort of threat. And I don't know what it is. I haven't been able to articulate it. But I have seen it. And also I have people behind the scenes who tell me like they hate JD Vance. I think it's because he does push a more America First agenda. It was so weird to me when he got out there because he never mentioned Israel. He barely said anything about Israel. And then when he was nominated that first night, I don't know if you guys remember the first night of the RNC last year, where he gives this interview and he's like, yeah, we should bomb Iran. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking? Where does this even come from? Like, Like, you were doing so good. Like, what the hell?
And he was one of the few people that spoke up on that Signal group chat, right? He said, "I don't think we should do this. This
Yeah.
Yes,
may
he
not be a
did.
good idea."
Well, he's the reason that chat leaked. Just so y'all know, that's a little behind the scenes info. He is that people think that, it's interesting because the way the article is written up, it's made to seem almost like the whole administration was amateurish, right? But of course, Waltz 100% knew that Goldberg was in there, and it was JD's replies that were the reason why. And then from what I've been told, there was kind of a either he goes or I go, or not I go, but he has to go. And this is why Waltz again was moved to the UN. But yeah, no, that was meant to embarrass JD and kind of put out like a warning to others that, hey, he's not going to play ball with us. And
that would make sense. Why would leak to the Atlantic? Why would it?
Right.
Why would it leak to a former IDF prison guard? Okay, now
Right.
that makes sense.
And why he held on to it for 2 weeks, I believe it was. Right? It was.
It wasn't to
all
protect the national security interests, is what you're saying.
It was all calculated to embarrass JD Vance and to put it out there like he's not going to play ball with us, and you all need to. And so they were kind of trying, and also to drive that wedge, right? So now on the one side you've got Rubio, and then on the other side you've got Vance. So obviously Zionists, their dream team is a Rubio DeSantis presidency or ticket.
Right. And I don't know if like JD seems, I mean, to me, because of all the stuff in his past, like I don't really trust him that much. And he changed names 3 times. It's very bizarre, like, connection with Palantir, getting funded by Peter Thiel and all that stuff. So that's all very concerning to me and to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And Peter Thiel, it's interesting to me with Thiel. I see him more as a businessman. I don't see him as ideological, perhaps. Now, I know people are they're going to get really mad at me for that, and I get it. But I see Thiel as kind of like a vulture capitalist, right? He doesn't give he'll just do it if it makes him money, right? Almost as kind of like, whereas I see someone as like Alex Karp, who is significantly more dangerous in my mind because he is ideologically driven, right? And Alex Karp is psychotic. Okay. He is a psychopath. I think that Sam Altman is a psychopath. Okay. And these people are very ideologically driven to where they are today. Right. Again, I see Thiel more as like a vulture capitalist as opposed to, I don't know. What do you think, James?
No, that's interesting. No, that's an interesting perspective because I don't hear Thiel talking a lot about foreign policy and these kinds of things, whereas like a Larry Ellison, right? He's very clearly driven by more than just making money, right? He's talking about the importance of the relationship with Israel. He's the largest private donor of the IDF. So he has other interests clearly outside of the, I would say, traditionalist capitalist priority agenda. Whereas Thiel, I haven't thought too much. I just, because I obviously don't trust Thiel because of all the surveillance things that he's doing and the stuff that I see as infringing on civil liberties, and the amount of control that these guys have is just outrageous. But that's an angle I haven't thought about, which, that's why I love these conversations. Like, okay, that's an interesting thread. Now, maybe I can dissect things through that lens and think about it in a different way.
It's just something that I've observed from him. And people always hone in on the Palantir, but he actually has his fingers on a lot of different other things. He's really kind of been a genius on his ability to pick winners, right? Specifically, he was a very early investor in Spotify, which Spotify is kind of one of those things. It's a huge platform that allows a lot of conversations that aren't allowed elsewhere, right? Even though they did end up kicking Nick Fuentes off, which I thought was very fascinating that they wouldn't allow him on there.
I don't think he was ever on.
No, I thought that they opened it up and then they took him off.
Oh, okay. So that thing, I think I heard Fuentes talking about that. He's like, that wasn't even me. Like somebody else put my podcast on there.
Okay. Has he tried? I wonder if he's
I'm
even
not
tried.
sure. I'm not sure if he's trying. I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, he's doing so well for himself on Rumble and his own
Yeah.
thing. He doesn't really need
Yeah.
the traditional players anymore. He doesn't have to kowtow to them, because I'm sure if he goes on there, he's going to get pressure from all different kinds of
Right.
sources and people that he doesn't want to deal with. And now he just kind of does his own thing. So
Well, he's
it
on
just
Rumble,
shows that
which
you can't cancel people anymore. I think it's difficult.
well, again, and Teal's a huge investor into Rumble, and they allow Fuentes on there, which has allowed his clips to really go really super viral. Because before you would have to log on to into Cozy, right? And so, I don't know. I think he's just more in it for the money. I don't actually think that there's any kind of like evil, which again, people who are driven by money, that's not necessarily good. We want you to be driven by the good. That's preferable. But if I had to choose between somebody who's like a Zionist ideologue as opposed to just like a vulture capitalist, I'd take the vulture capitalist every day of the week, because I'm like, look, there's a real market for this. Like, look, we can make you money over here too.
Right, exactly. You can actually change a vulture capitalist mind if you incentivize where the money goes.
Yeah.
If it's more profitable all of a sudden to do something different, they'll do that different thing. And you see that with corporations all the time in social kind of positions, LGBTQ or anything of that sort. They change their mind all the time depending on where the money is. Whereas somebody like Ellis, I mean, they literally are paying Barry Weiss $150 million for her blog. Makes no financial sense. I would love to see, behind the scenes, a shareholder meeting of like, why did we just buy this? What is that? We could have even hired her.
Especially,
for,
we're currently getting more
views.
views than. I think we're getting more views right now, like 3 or 4 times as many as her debate with Alan Dershowitz and James Loesch.
Oh yeah. No, we're sitting at.
Maybe someone will buy this for $150 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 4,000 live viewers right now, and I think the last one when she had the debate with Alan Dershowitz, it was at
800.
Like 800 views that was 6 hours afterwards.
Later, yeah.
So, but again, so I do think these people who are ideologically driven, I know Alex Karp is, I do believe, one of the most dangerous men in America, because he is a sociopath and he actually sees, again, this is a guy who said that when Trump got elected, he thought that MAGA was going to throw him out of a window because he was Jewish. Okay, this is a kind of paranoia that is unhealthy, right? And it really does hint at like a really kind of deeper issues that somebody has. So if you think that you're always going to be a victim, if you see, again, MAGA is like
all of them. That's all the Zionists, though. They all think like that. Like they think they're being threatened by renaming a park in Ireland. I mean,
right. Don't get me started on that stupid park. And yeah, so they
have you followed this, James?
Wait, what to say again?
The park in Ireland.
Oh, they're renaming a park in Ireland that was named after Herzog, the Israeli president's father, I think, or grandfather. So they're renaming it because they don't want it, to be named.
I hadn't heard
and they're
about
all
that,
going nuts and saying this is like Jew hate. Oh, it's funny. It's funny how the algorithm feeds you things. So my entire algorithm is people freaking out about this park. My entire feed.
Okay.
And like
I can
calling
see
it
why
Jew
they
hate.
freak out. Yeah. Yeah,
I know. I posted about it because Lindsey Graham wrote like 6 paragraphs about this yesterday.
So did
no
Mike
kidding.
Huckabee.
Although I
Okay.
haven't been on Twitter as much in the last couple of days. I was trying to like just kind of be with family and
Oh yeah, I know.
tune some of this out.
That's smart.
I wish I could say that. Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
I was with family on Thursday and Friday, but yeah, yesterday I got into it. I was on a long drive, and so I'm just like reading, and I'm like, who cares what they name their public parks in Ireland? Who cares about this? This is so stupid. Public parks
And also,
get
well,
named.
it's also
name whatever they want to name. It's a different country. Ireland. Why would Ireland honor an Israeli leader? It doesn't even make any sense.
Because so the guy was born in Ireland, and then
yeah.
he joins the but he was like a founding member of the Haganah, okay?
Which is
so which
is
was a
terrorist
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 organization.
group.
Okay, so he was like in Ireland for like 20 years of his life. And then he moves to Israel to literally found the Jewish state, which he becomes like the 6th prime minister, I guess. And again, he's honored in Israel. Why does he have to be honored in Ireland? That doesn't make any sense. You know,
well, it was also juxtaposed with the fact that Israel had killed those 2 young boys, you know, with the drone strike, for like crossing over a yellow line at the same time. And then all these people are like freaking out about the renaming of the park and have nothing to say about that. It's like, it's just so gross.
I want to stop you, Janine. There is no line. There was no fucking line. These little boys had no idea.
I'm not.
Yeah, I know. They always say that. Oh, they crossed the yellow line. It's like, really? It's like the yellow line that's on the football, right? So if you have a when you're watching football, I remember the first time I ever saw it, I was like, oh, are those lines really there? How do they move them so fast?
I'm so sorry. I've got to run.
Oh,
my son just woke up and my husband's not home, so he's crying. So I gotta go. Yes. But I'll let you guys wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us, James. Yeah, hopefully we'll have you back.
Bye, guys. Well, we'll stay on and we'll close out.
Yeah, stay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just talking about that yellow line, it's so obscene because you've got small children. These little boys are like, I think there was like 9 and 11 years old. They have no idea. They're just out. Their father's in a wheelchair. They're going out to collect firewood. They cross this imaginary line that Israel has drawn. Mm-hmm. And when they did that to collect their firewood, the IDF sent up a drone and murdered them, just killed them,
And I mean, that's horrific. And it's even worse because then you hear, like we talked about, Sarah Horowitz saying that I can't talk about things because there's a wall of dead babies. I'm like, why is there a wall of dead babies? What purpose is that serving? Other than, of course, then you hear the Israeli ministers in their own media talking about, yes, we are doing this. We're going to nuke them. We're going to, everybody is Hamas, and we're just going to ethnically cleanse the whole place.
Right.
I mean, Charlie Kirk said this like on September 12th or something. He was like, they're going to ethnically cleanse Gaza. That's what's going to happen. I'm sorry to say that. They're going to do it.
They were. Yeah, and that's always been the plan. And I've said this since December of 2023 that they had crossed a line, and there was never going to be any turning back. They were never going to allow international journalists in there because what they had done in just the first 2 months was so horrific, so inhumane, so antithetical to everything that the West stands for that they could never allow the world to see what they had done. And we're seeing that now.
And it's not like the U.S. government haven't done some horrible things. I think the issue that I take is that they're saying this is war, so we're going to do horrible things. I'm like, okay, fine, it's war, but I should be able to oppose that without losing my job. I should be able to say, I don't like this. And they're saying, no, you can't even go there. You can't even oppose this, or else we're going to threaten you. We're going to dox you. We're going to remove you from your job, or we're going to, threaten your life, at the most extreme, right? How does that's the stuff I think that upsets you as well, is that I understand your justification for it. Maybe if I was Israeli, I would feel the same way, but I'm not, and I should be able to speak out against it, and especially from another country.
Well, I should be able to speak out against America's support for it, right? Because even though the American government supported Ukraine nonstop, I was constantly speaking out against our support. No one ever tried to, no one ever labeled me anything. And
anti-Ukrainian or whatever.
You'd had the NAFO.
Well, they probably called you like pro-Putin, like a Putin, puppet, these kinds of things.
But none of that had me labeled as something like you can't associate with her, right?
Yeah.
But of course, so again, I was able to find plenty of people who we could have civil disagreements on it, everything like that. But when it comes to Israel, there is no quote unquote civil disagreement. It's just a straight up, you're an anti-Semite, you must be canceled. We're going to try to target you. We're going to target your family. We're going to, we're going to try to destroy your income. We're going to sue you. Just the craziest shit you've ever heard in your life. And it's like, why? And you and I were talking about this before we started the podcast, and it's because if they allow us to really kind of get at just one little thing, right? The whole house of cards will come down, right? So, and this is why you'll see Zionists, and I say this as, Jewish Zionists and Christian Zionists. It's not, it really is a Zionist thing. And I know I always get people in my comments like mentioning that, and I'm like, no, actually, I've been in all of it. I assure you, I've seen everything you guys want to send me. I promise you this. These Christian Zionists are they are a force, right? And when they are talking,
Mhm.
I'm not going to just label them Jews. I'm sorry, I'm not. Okay? Like they hold their own power, they have their own motivations. Do I think they're as powerful as the Jewish Zionists? No. Do I think that they are important? Yes, right? So anyways, if you knock down even just like one of their kind of strongholds, the whole house of cards just comes down. And so this is why we see them kind of defending the indefensible, like the drone striking of children gathering firewood. It's nuts. The summary execution of people who come out of a warehouse with their arms up and totally surrendered, right? They're on their knees, arms up, and they're just murdering them, right? So
Right.
again,
There's no repercussion. Like, we can do this, we
none.
could not do this. If we do it, nobody can stop us.
Right. Right. And so, yeah, and like somebody here in the chat says, their only valid criticism is, so you support Qatar. And it's like, number one, I just learned this very recently. I don't know if you knew this, but the U.S. is actually in 2012 that the leadership of Hamas has only been in Qatar since 2012, and the U.S. actually asked Qatar to host them.
I did not know that. That is what a
Yeah, they
that's
used to be.
what a fact.
So they used to be in Syria, and then after the Syrian war, the civil war broke out, because there was some conflict there about, I guess it was like sectarian conflict. The US and Israel went to Doha and asked them, and Qatar agreed because they wanted to they basically wanted to get in good with the West, right? So they were like, sure, we'll do you this favor. And yeah, that's where that came from. And it's like, wow, that kind of probably came back to bite you guys in the ass, huh? Because no good deed goes unpunished, right? Because now they're like,
that's kind of what we're learning, is that you really can't negotiate either with Israel or the U.S. in good faith, because you might just get blown up in these negotiations, right? I mean, that was an insane thing that had happened, right, with the drone, or with the military strike during the supposed negotiations of a sovereign country, and then we're just like, oh, sorry, well, hopefully that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, we can't actually control this thing that we have created. And I do think that the US bears so much responsibility, obviously, but I also believe that Israel does whatever the hell it wants to, and then we're just kind of expected to just clean up afterwards, right? I know there's a lot of debate over who controls who. I just don't buy it. The U.S. doesn't control Israel. Israel does whatever it wants to do.
Yeah.
If the U.S. wanted to set up its own little puppet state, I assure you, it would not have chosen the state on the far edge. Okay, they would have just chosen a different, it'd be Saudi Arabia. It'd be somewhere where actually had some actual valuable resources, as opposed to just this nonstop drama 24/7.
Yeah.
But all right, James. Well, it's been about an hour. I think we covered everything. Thank you so much for your input on this Google stuff, because it's fascinating. What do you think going forward is going to happen? Do you think they're just going to shut this down?
With Google Trends, or what do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think they're going to shut Google Trends down.
I don't know if they're going to shut Google Trends down, just because it's such a powerful business tool. Major corporations use it all the time in terms of their marketing analytics. I don't know if there would be more protocols in place for situations like this to prevent searches like that. That's possible. But I'm glad you asked that question in terms of the wider implications. I do want people to think on this front, in that no matter what happened as far as like why this guy did what he did, there's always this kind of larger question of what are they trying to do? Like, what are the overall consequences of this? No matter if you believe in the conspiracy or not. And that same thing, I would relate it back to what happened here in California or in Hawaii with the Maui and Palisades fires and these kinds of things. They're saying, is this started by the government? Is it direct energy weapons? Whatever. It doesn't matter. The end result of those natural disasters or created disasters, there's going to be a land grab, and there has been land grabs occurring in both of those areas. So if that's what they're going to do, the conspiracy really doesn't matter. In this case, they're trying to create some problem, whether it's manufactured or not, there's a problem. And then now they want you to react to the problem with fear, typically, right? They want you to be afraid of what's going on so that they can deploy the military. That is what I think is going on. And you need to be wary of that conversation or I would say that conversation is almost as important as figuring out who did it, because if they're going to be able to, I guess, use this in an opportunistic way, that's also equally important to pay attention to. Same here in California, where I live, as far as the fires go. That's why I'm still so diligent on what the government is doing right now, right? We can't stop, that fire has already happened, but we can stop the things that they're trying to do now. That's equally important to pay attention to, I would say.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Because again, they're going to do what they're going to do. So the only power that we do have is exposing who and how they benefit, who benefits and how it is that they benefit. It literally is the only power. And it does, I think, make them a little bit more conscious. And I know that people will say, well, there's nothing you can do. You're not going to change anything. And it's like, okay, well, if you think like that, then just log off. Just log off. But I actually do believe that exposing the truth, getting this stuff out there, it does, if nothing else, it makes them change their behavior, right? They can't be so obvious, which means they can't be so drastic in the things that they do. So it's small, it's incremental, but it is important nonetheless. And the fact is that I 100% believe that the American populace is the most propagandized population on earth. 100%. It's unbelievable we have been subjected to in the last 50 or 60 years. And, we have to kind of slowly wake, people up. I know you have people in your own life. I'm just talking to everybody out there who maybe you have some boomer parents or whatnot. I get it. Trust me, I have my own that I deal with. They watch the Fox News. They don't want to hear your shit. I get it. Just microdose. It is what it is. That's all you can do. But the younger populations, they know something's wrong. They know something isn't right. And they are 100% primed and open to listening to you, right? So take the information. James shares such good stuff. He does so many great videos. And like I said, they're just so easy to digest and really just kind of get the wheels turning a little bit. Like, hey, actually, this isn't right. Your work during the Palisades fires and afterwards and who benefited from that was just phenomenal, and I really do think that it really did help people open eye. Like, who has a monopoly on the freaking water? Who even knew that there was a monopoly on water? What do you mean you own the rights of the water in a state? That's not a thing, except it is a thing, right? And so, and I do think that people were kind of flabbergasted to learn that. And you did it in like a 6-minute video. It was so perfect, and I was able to share it with everyone. And so, yeah, your work is just so, they really can't kind of put a value on it. It is invaluable to me, I think. So thank you so much for coming.
That. Yeah. I'm glad. That's the goal. That's why I do what I do. It's definitely not for the money. I mean, I would have made way more money staying in consulting for big corporations. This is where I'm just trying to do what I can to educate myself and then educate other people and then have them kind of carry the torch as well. Because this only can work if everybody gets in on the action. You can't just, there's nobody really here to save you, quote unquote, right? We can't rely on that. You have to kind of take agency into your own hands.
Right. I agree 100%. And so, yeah, take his work, build on it, make your own content, all of it. And then everybody benefits. Right. So anyways, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you back very soon. Yes.
Yes.
So this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Yep. Bye guys. We'll see you soon. Okay. And hold on just one second, James.